too little or too much? What is the right amount? Wow, that's a big question today, and I'm going to be answering that for you. So perhaps you've always wondered, like, what is the right amount? Should I have a lot of content or a little bit of content? Does it make a difference if I have too much or too little? Well, absolutely it does. And I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how to figure out the right amount of content to make your masterclass convert even higher. So hey, thanks for watching. If you're watching me live, type in hashtag live so I know that you're here. And if you're watching the replay, thank you. Do that too, hashtag replay, so that I know that you've been here and you've seen it. And also, if you have any questions that come up, post them in the comments because I'll circle back and answer them. I'm Sue Clement. I'm your Masterclass conversion expert, and I'm all about how to help you get more sales off of your masterclass. That's right. I help coaches, course creators, and experts leverage their masterclasses so that they can create, host, and launch a masterclass that's high performing. Because if you're going to do a masterclass, well, guess what? The goal is to get clients, and we're going to be talking about that today. So this is actually a question that came up to me from Carrie. So Carrie, this is your shout out. This is for you. Carrie asked the question, and I'll just read it right here. How does one figure out how much information to include on a masterclass? And that is a really relevant topic because you know that in a masterclass you're going to teach something, you're going to share some information, but is there a tipping point where too little, too much? What's the right amount? So let me just jump in. It's almost like Goldilocks, because here's the thing. If you don't share enough information on your masterclass, what happens is the audience feels a little underfed. They feel a little frustrated. Have you ever gone out to a restaurant and the portions were really micro tiny and you left hungry? But you left hungry and angry. Yeah. One thing about being hungry is good to a certain degree, but angry is frustrating. And that's often what happens if you put not enough content in your masterclass. You know, years ago there was always the saying, teach them the what and the why, but never the how. And so you just spend the whole time talking about the problem. Well, from my point of view, I think you need to tell them some how. People need to feel fed. They need to feel that they got something valuable from the masterclass. They need to feel like there was some content that made sense to them, that they can actually roll up their sleeves and go away and get some positive outcome from it. So too little will actually make people feel, well, a little angry. It makes them a little frustrated. I know I've been on those master classes, and maybe you have too, where like 90 minutes in and you still haven't learned anything. Yikes, that's a waste of my time. So we want to make sure that we do give them some content or enough content. Because without that, they are not going to buy, because they don't like you, they don't trust you, and they don't know if you're credible. They don't know if you know the solution to the answer. If you just talk about the problem ad nauseum over and over again, they like going, I have the problem, I know the problem, what is the answer? We want the answer here. So not enough content will kind of breach the trust. From my point of view, it makes you feel like, I don't trust this person, I don't like this person, and can they really do what they say that they can? And that's often the thing, is like you want to make sure that you give them some information so that they can see that you're credible, that it's worth investing in you. If you haven't proven your worth, it's hard to invest in someone. I don't know if they really know what they're doing. So too little is absolutely off the list. Now, the next side of it, and this is my big problem. This is what, I don't know, it took me a long time to figure this one out, because I would err on the other side. I'm kind of that teacher style. I want to make sure people kind of get the answer. So too much information can be just as damaging as too little, but for a different reason. Years ago, I used to do a free evening seminar, and I rent a hotel room and put like 200 to 300 people in the hotel room, and I would do my seminars. There was no food there, but it was almost like information buffet. I would actually kind of take people metaphorically up and down this information buffet, giving them more and more and heaping on more and more and more and more and more and more. Oh my God, ad nauseum. I would give them so much content, I'd overfeed them. So too much doesn't work, because at the end of my presentation, when I was going to make my offer, I'd be like waltzing out there with this kind of metaphorical cheesecake saying, do you want to buy my cheesecake? And they were gagging in the aisle saying, no, Sue, we have enough information. And as a matter of fact, we have so much information. We're going to take all these doggy bags home of information, and we're going to kind of chew on it for the next 6 months, and maybe we'll come back and buy. And that's the biggest problem. If you share too much information, then you've overfed the audience. They feel like you've solved all their problems in the world, and they feel content and not going to take action on your offer. So you're shooting yourself in the foot if you give them too much information, because they won't feel the need to buy more from you. And that doesn't work because you're not going to make the sales that you want. The other thing that also comes up with that, and this is kind of like a sub point, is that if I give someone so much information, they feel that they have it all, what happens usually is they go back to their offices and they don't do the work. They don't really even unpack it, they don't apply it, and so, weeks, days later, they're looking at this saying, well, that didn't work, I didn't learn anything valuable. They've forgotten, they get into overwhelm, and they don't take action. So that's also going to shoot yourself in the foot. So too little? Too much? Definitely not. So like Goldilocks, you've got to find the right amount. Now here's the thing though, it isn't even so much about the amount. What I want to address here is it's important that you pick the right content. Yeah, like that right content will make or break you on your masterclass. Actually, just this morning I was working with one of my clients, and we spent the whole call actually trying to determine what would be the right content. We can figure out how much later on, but initially, what's the right content? Because when we pick the right content, there's a couple things to always consider. So as much as you can do masterclasses on lots of different topics, but really what we want to do is we're designing the masterclass to sell. We want the masterclass to attract the right people who will take action on our offer. And that's the vehicle. It has to be that vehicle. We have to be able to take people on that journey. And so consequently, you don't want to just do a masterclass willy-nilly on any topic. You want to look at your offer and say, okay, who is this for? Who's going to buy my offer? Who's it designed for? What price point? What quantity of knowledge am I sharing? You really want to dig into knowing your ideal client avatar. And then when you have that avatar, you have to think about the offer. What's the deliverables in the sense of what would they be getting? What problems would it solve? And then what you want to do is when you get this big list of all the problems that your offer solves, we want to take one little nugget of that, right? We want to take one small piece, because the goal of the masterclass, when we're picking that right amount of content, is the audience needs to have a small win. They need to feel like they've been fed. They need to feel like they got something valuable. So we need to solve a small problem for them in the masterclass. And so that's where we begin to think about what's the right content. We want to be able to make sure that the content we pick is going to attract our ideal client avatar. And from attracting our ideal client avatar, then they are going to at least be the right people congruent to your offer and will take you up on your offer. And so think of it from that point of view. Too little, too much, okay, but the right content, that sweet spot, is really solving a small problem for your ideal client on your masterclass that aligns with your offer. It's really important that you do that, because we want them to take action on your offer as the next logical step. So here are a couple things to keep in mind. So number one is your clients must be problem aware if they're going to buy. So if you solve all their problems, they're not problem aware. They don't have a problem anymore. They feel it's been fixed. So we want to keep them in that problem aware state. We want to make sure that we understand the problems that they have and that they know them too, because our offer needs to be positioned as the solution provider to that problem. So we always want to make sure that we keep that problem aware, and how we do that is by always keeping sight of the gap. And, or never losing sight of the gap. It's what I often say it that way too. So what does that mean? Well, where the prospect is to where they want to get to. There is a gap between where they're at now and what they're hoping to solve, whatever that might be, obviously relevant to your services. So we always want to keep that gap in mind, and we always want to highlight the gap before we make our offer, because we want the participant or the prospect to see where they are and still feel the problem of where they are. They might feel a little bit better because you solved something for them, but they actually still recognize that there was somewhere else they were going. There's a bigger next step for them, and that's what will help you create more conversion or increase your conversion rates is if you keep your audience problem aware and they never lose sight of the gap. And then you actually will align your masterclass to your offer, attracting the right prospect, sharing the right information, and that's one of the key pieces of increasing your conversions. So thanks, Carrie, for asking this question. If you have any more questions, you, Carrie, or anybody else, if you have any questions about masterclass conversions, how to do them, how to get more conversions, any tips or tricks that you're looking for, post them in the comments or send me a DM like Carrie did, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. I'm going to be coming here live again next Thursday, so you better stay tuned. Once again, I'm Sue Clement. I'm your Masterclass Conversion Expert. Thanks for listening, whether it's live or on the replay. I really appreciate you being here and listening in, and make sure that you leave a comment. Tell me what was the golden nugget. What was your nugget in listening today? What was an aha that you might have had that you're going to do differently on your next masterclass? And thanks for watching, and we will see you around again soon. Have a great day.